Hello and welcome back to Shelf Center. This is Bryce. Thanks so much for stopping by. Thanks for liking and subscribing. If this is something you end up enjoying, you never know, it could happen. Well, I've got our top shelf news for the week. It's a little late or a little early, however you want to call it, but it's definitely going to be our last of the year. I don't know if I could fit more into the end of this year. I've got a bunch of videos coming up here, and so this should be it. Maybe it won't be. There could be some more news that I just can't resist. Maybe it'll be a shorter video, so we'll see. But anyway, this is my top news as far as fantasy and science fiction and sometimes horror goes, and mostly as it relates to books, but also some media. We've got a little bit of media, but mostly it's the books because we've got the state of the Sanderson to address. That'll be listed below when we get there, so you can jump ahead if you want to. But anyway, I got a couple things to address first. So let's jump into the books. First things first, we got a bunch of covers or book release news. We got Spate. Jeff Spate has got his third book in the Archives of Elevium. I could be pronouncing that wrong. God Ascended, and this cover is just amazing. So the first book in that trilogy is Paladin Unbound. I have owned this book for a while. I now have it on audiobook, so I'm excited to get to it on audiobook hopefully in this next year. And so actually start the trilogy, but I've heard nothing but great things. It's independently published. And again, that cover, I mean, that alone makes me want to read it so much. So anyway, very cool. And it looks like we've got a release in January, so that's exciting. Speaking of independently published books, friend of the channel, J.R. Carroll, I've been on his channel many a time, and he's even been on my channel now that I think about it, in one of my big, huge live streams. He's got More Than Legends. This is in his More Than Human series, which I've read 2 books so far. More Than a God War I've got to read still. Excellent series, just lots of fun, utilizes history but with vampires and all kinds of things. So really cool, but it was just barely released. He announced I did already grab me a copy on Kindle, so I'm very excited for it, but it is a short story collection, his first short story collection. I'm very excited. I know he's read a lot of short stories, at least in the Witcher series, because that's what we were discussing. So I am pretty confident he's pretty aware of how to put together a good short story after all of our discussions with that. So I'm excited to jump into that. And we're just going to keep going with the independently published book news. So Blood Brothers Beyond. This is a Mortal Techniques story. It's Rob J. Hayes. It's his newest. First of all, the Mortal Techniques, the covers are just insane. They're so good. What is it? Never Say Die or something like that? Is that the first one? Anyway, I have a bunch of these. I need to read some Rob J. Hayes. I've only heard great things. So, but these covers alone make me want to read them. All right, I'd mentioned we are getting a new book in the Black Company series by Glenn Cook not too long ago. We've actually got a cover now. It's Lies Weeping is the book. The cover, I just think the covers are great. This one is another good one. They are a little bit standing around. I have made it known that I'm not the biggest fan of covers where people are just standing around. You know, I want some action. Or at least if you're standing around, do so with some kind of weapon or a dragon or something like that. So those are what I prefer. But this has got a lot going for it. These are magic wielders, and there's some kind of mysterious, looks like entities or something floating around. So anyway, they're in action poses. So that's the standing around that I like. All right, this is one. It keeps, for some reason, I've even written it in my notes, my outlines for my news, and it somehow I didn't even say anything, or I skipped it or something. But anyway, we have new covers for the Dungeon Crawler Carl series, and so it's more from Ace. The traditionally published series is continuing on. We've already got the first 3 in the Ace, having the Ace treatment. Now we've got the last, the following 3 after that, because then there's actually even another one. So there's 7 books total, but these next 3, we've got The Gate of the Feral Gods, The Butcher's Masquerade, and The Eye of the Bedlam Bride. I'll be honest, and I said this when I first looked at these covers, I was like, meh. I was not a fan. I was like, oh, look, I mean, it takes, the indie covers are so much better. There's so much more action and great stuff going. but I have to say, the more these are coming out, the more I love them, the more I love the spines. Are pretty cool. I can only imagine I need to get the rest of these to match those spines and have them really just pop on the shelf because they are just bright, and they are, I mean, the thing is, they're fitting. They're just bonkers enough to be fitting, and that's what I think I like about them most. They're very fitting of the series, of the craziness going on in this series, and I absolutely love it. So I'm very excited to continue on. I have read now the first 3 books, and I'm excited to read these next 3. All right, let's get into what we came here for, right? The state of the Sanderson. I've learned, I used to do these as news as like the state of the Sanderson alone, but I am going to mention this in my news video because frankly, I don't know, people don't, like, they can go read it clearly, right? So I'll have that link down below. So I'm just going to give you the summary of what I found the most exciting, the most, the kind of like the biggest things. The biggest one really is that, and he gives us this whole timeline, and I'll post that up, of his projected publication schedule, which he's pretty good about. I mean, for the most part, he sticks to pretty well, but he is kind of like, look, this first 5 books of Stormlight took a lot out of me. And so he's already telling us, don't expect the next one until maybe December of 2031. And so that's a ways away. That's literally, I mean, we're talking, what is it? Yeah, 7 years away from right now, from this December. And so, I mean, that's a ways away. It's quite a big break. He's gonna, and that's part of what the rest of the Sanderson, State of the Sanderson is about. He does talk a lot about the movie news and all that stuff and what stages, and he actually, he wrote out a big whole thing as to kind of the layperson's guide almost to how a movie goes from like development, well, option development, and then kind of different stages along the process, and which he wanted to use to be able to refer people back to. And so, you know, if you want to get into that, go look there. I'm not going to get into that here. There's some things that are further along than others. It does seem like Snapshot, of all things, I think Mistborn was in the process the longest, and then he talks about how that didn't work out, but it got pretty far. But Snapshot might be our first thing that we see from Sanderson, which is funny because of all things, it's like nobody talks about that one. I mean, it's a fun one. It's a cool concept. Totally makes sense why it would go forward. But anyway, I thought that was funny that of all things, like that's the one that might see, you know, film first. But it looks like Tress of the Emerald Sea might see an animation, all these things. So anyway, I'll let you check out if you're excited for the movie stuff. I'm more focused on the books here, okay? Biggest ones probably are going to be the fall will be Isles of the Emberdark, fall of 2025, and that's just for those who pledged at the Kickstarter, and then it's going to be probably early 2026 for the Tor release of Isles of the Emberdark. I've talked about this a couple times now, but December of 2025, we're going to see Tailored Realities, which is the non-Cosmere short stories and novellas collection, and one of which he just barely kind of finished. December 20 of 2026, or even into 2027, we will either have Dark One or Isaac's Cosmere book. We have what is real focus, it looks like, is really going to be this next little bit is going to be Ghost Bloods, which is Mistborn Era 3. So we've got Era 1 is the epic fantasy. Era 2 is the kind of like Western, which I need to read. And then this Era 3, 2028, Ghost Bloods. I think already the title is a little bit of a spoiler, so sorry about that. But again, you're going to see it, I'm sure, eventually. But so that's pretty cool. Mistborn Era 3 is one he's definitely been working on for some time. I feel like Wax and Wane, the Era 2, was kind of, it just seemed like more of like his like passion project. He's just like, this will be fun to do it like in this time period. And then it became a big thing. But as far as I gathered, and correct me if I'm wrong, but that was never like a full, like a planned one from the beginning. But this Era 2 one is what's been planned. And so that'll be exciting to see those connections with the Cosmere. And then his focus is kind of going to be back and forth between Ghost Bloods or Mistborn Era 3. So that'll be Ghost Bloods 1 in December of 2028. And then in summer of 2029, Elantris 2. So he's been talking about doing a sequel to Elantris, so we're actually going to get a trilogy, it looks like. Elantris 2 will see a product or publication maybe sometime summer 2029. Then in December 2029, Ghost Bloods 2. Then summer 2030, Elantris 3. And then December of 2030, Ghost Bloods 3. And that's why essentially we're going to see Stormlight Archive Book 6. And I have not seen a title or anything like that. I don't think he's even close to that. Maybe not. But he wants to not think about it right now. This latest Stormlight Archive Book 5, Wind and Truth, took some things out of him, I think. Needs a little recharge here, which he does by just writing other things. So we are really pretty blessed fans, right? I really liked his approach to crowdfunding. He kind of is like, look, we could do a lot of things through crowdfunding, and I'm sure they do fine. In fact, I'm sure they do insanely well. He just is like, look, we want to fulfill what we've already done first. We want to make sure we're doing what we say we're going to do, and then do the next crowdfunding. I really appreciate that. That was a good, really healthy take. He's like, look, everybody and their dog wanted to like do some kind of crowdfunding with me, which I get. I mean, after you have like the most successful crowdfunding thing ever, everybody wants to now sell to your fans. And so I see where he could have just run with it. If he were certain YouTubers, I'm sure that would have happened. Or crypto, right? And he'd go, the Cosmere crypto is the next thing that we'd see. But luckily, he actually likes his fans and doesn't disdain them. Again, blessed, lucky to have Sanderson on our side, and he hasn't just thrown all that at everyone. And again, it dilutes things. I think he sees long term, and in the short term, yeah, he'd do great. But it does dilute things a lot, and I think that's the right choice, and I really appreciate that. Again, I am still waiting for my Words of Radiance, leatherbound, along with Isles of the Emberdark. So I'm so excited for that. One of the other things that I took from this, I really like. He does mention, he's been mentioning for this for some time, but his project with Peter Aurelian of the Unremembered fame, of author of the Unremembered. Songs of the Dead. It looks like it's pretty much just going to solely be Peter Aurelian's book from here on out, although Sanderson's done his healthy amount, and I'm sure his name will definitely be on there as a co-author. But essentially, Aurelian's running with it. They've got a publisher. It looks like it's happening. I really like this, by the way, so if you want to kind of check out, he's got this book and Trial of Intentions, sequel to this regardless, and then some short stories out there which are worth checking out. If you like Wheel of Time, it's a lot like Wheel of Time, so almost too much if you like Wheel of Time, but I liked it a lot. I really did. So I thought this was great, and I love this cover and everything. So anyway, check that one out for sure, just to see where you're going to fall with Songs of the Dead, which I am excited for. I've been looking forward to quite a bit. Sanderson does talk about some other projects that are kind of out there. He's been talking about for a while a sequel to Warbreaker, which will probably be Nightblood, and some other things. Just again, not quite there. He's kind of booked out till 2031, apparently. And notice how we skip, as I talked about, from December of 2030 all the way to December of 2031, and that's because Stormlight Archive takes all of his time. He could do 2 books a year, if not more, with your normal size books. And by even normal, I mean normal for him is still like a 600-page book in mass market paperback. But these Stormlight books take a lot more. And I have to say, I've been paying attention to some of the reviews, people I trust. It's pretty mixed so far. I mean, some people love Wind and Truth, and some people are struggling with it. So anyway, I'm a little nervous because I'm going to be reading this here very soon, anyway, we'll see. But those were the big things that I took from the State of the Sanderson. There's a bunch of other news like publishing in other languages. They affect me less than other people, so definitely check that out. And so, but it's exciting time to be alive, that we are getting so much from Sanderson and so many things. So it's pretty cool. Love the State of the Sanderson. Love how much is going on. I do like to see that he's still got these plans going where I think it would just be very easy to run your company, Dragonsteel, and like produce, like he talks about, they're doing the the probably yearly the deluxe editions of the Wheel of Time, and he talks about it being a little different because now suddenly we've got licensing fees, which they don't have when it's your own books. So pretty interesting. And I like how he just gets into the process of things. It's pretty cool to see some insight. Like, none of this stuff has to be under lock and key, right, or hidden, and I really like that he's just open about it because it's kind of fun. It's fun to see and interesting and see, and I hope encouraging to other people that want to be authors and put their hearts out there with their own books. All right, so that is the book news. We're jumping into the media news. So the media news is we got a couple things. One, just some news on Dune Messiah, which is going to be the third, probably last of the Villeneuve Dune movies, but there's been some controversy over this one. So apparently Linus Sandgren is going to be the cinematographer and not Greg Fraser, who did the first two movies, which is extremely disappointing to a lot of people. I will say losing a cinematographer that's that good is a little it makes me nervous, that's for sure, but Sandgren did La La Land and No Time to Die. I think those are well done. So at least there's that. At least it's not some random person. So I'm hopeful. And again, in the right hands of the director, that's what's important. But also, a cinematographer is very vital in a movie. So it's a little like anyway. It's concerning, but I guess we'll have to see when it gets there. But a lot of people are extremely crushed on the internets. All right, and the last bit of media news I just wanted to point out: Beyond the Spider-Verse, so the third and final, it looks like, of the Spider-Verse trilogy. Absolutely, just some of the best. First of all, some of the best movies, whether animated or not. I just love these movies. They're so good. And I know a lot of people do. So I'm one of many. But as a huge Spider-Man fan, I would watch the cartoon like religiously. I collected the little cards. Still have my 1991 Spider-Man. One day it's going to be worth a lot of money, I know it. As well as my 1992 Spider-Man. For some reason I was big into the cards and not as much into the comics, which I came to later, but I absolutely love them. And so Spider-Man's just been my favorite superhero. I know it's a lot of people's favorite superhero, so I'm speaking to the choir a lot of times. But I was there for the first Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movie opening night, and it was so much fun, and it was so great. I was dressed up and everything. So anyway, to have so much Spider-Man, as long as it doesn't get rebooted every 5 minutes, which was a little frustrating there for a bit. But anyway, Bob Persichetti and Justin K. Thompson are the directors of Beyond the Spider-Verse, the last in the trilogy, and they did state they feel like it's got a satisfying ending here. So it is very good. So Bob, I'm not going to try that last name again. He directed the first and third movies. And then Justin Thompson has been involved in the second and third, and so I'm excited. They've both done an excellent job with their respective movies, and so this should be good. So anyway, let me know what you think, what news I missed or anything like that in the comments below, and please check out the Kindle book deals that I have in the description below. It does support the channel, so thank you so much, and we will catch you next time. Bye.